about that?
Yes. Now we see it.
Wow. Okay. Well, so sorry about that. That's a little bit weird, but so let me just okay, I'll just skip. This is basically what I was talking about, and hopefully it made some kind of sense in terms of what I've been saying. And if you do have questions, I'll certainly go back through this, but I'll just go over a little bit in terms of the global problems, the national problems related to our school and our way of practicing, even more closely local problems in terms of what can our paths of education do, our degree, why we invented, basically, why this new four-year degree was developed, our academic goals. I talked about a lot about architectural products, how those are thought about from concept through all of the testing and design steps to get toward a reality, and then how you test that actual product within our workshops. We need to know history. We'll teach you presentation skills and understanding the problems. The curriculum, seminar courses, workshops, leadership, and technical courses, all in support of this goal of getting a product realized, and the business skills that are needed to bring that design to market so that it doesn't just stay as an idea. This is our standard curriculum, which is on the website. This is, I think, where Elizabeth finally told me that you guys were just listening to a talking head instead of actually seeing the slides. This is very important to everybody. I've gotten lots of questions about this from parents that have been visiting, is where will my child work afterwards? So where will our graduates go? And there's actually a lot of options for that. So unlike the five-year degree, which it has been focused all 5 years on achieving this idea of high quality design and technical knowledge, but in an effort to get licensed. Instead, these graduates for the BSA+IT will really be trained to move into various kinds of situations in terms of employment. So there are the architecture offices, and I spoke a little bit about this in the beginning, where architecture firms, especially large firms, are now very interested in taking back the territories that we used to give to consultants. So interiors, graphics, experiential design. Even some architecture firms have in-house engineering, in-house design build consultants or construction contractors. So there's a lot of need for people who aren't necessarily right on the track for licensure. App development companies, because of the use of technology within the curriculum, that will certainly be an option. Furniture design firms, that's probably one that's the most well expected. Prefab housing, the world of prefab housing is expanding dramatically in terms of what that means to a specific culture. It's not any longer just the idea that it has to be something that's recognizable as a little monopoly house or something, because certain cultures require different types of enclosures for habitation. So that's super, topical and booming. Manufacturing industries of all sorts of things. So it doesn't have to be necessarily something that you even know about yet. But there are a lot of manufacturing facilities at all scales and industries. So it can be from the tiny minutia of certain parts to certainly the larger way of thinking about products. There's research in terms of research and development, which is really about a product and thinking about how all the steps that have to go into it from the beginning of where it started, precedent studies, say what an existing material is doing, all the way through to how you can take that material to the next level. Our current students, for example, are thinking about mycelium, which is very much a product in the material sciences these days that is certainly being developed to do the most interesting things. Mycelium, which is a fungus, or for example, mushrooms. can be manipulated in such a way to create products which can replace something as well known as masonry or brick. And it's worked into all sorts of different products. But there's also a strain of research, which is since mycelium and these various fungi can grow so quickly and are basically fed by organic materials, they're actually figuring out ways to use mycelium to deconstruct buildings, especially those that are made out of wood, rather than carting all the wood away to a landfill, depending upon the rate and speed and the need for taking apart that construction. That would be something that you'd never think that we would be designing products to do, but we can. So we can design products to make buildings and also design products to help facilitate the way they're taken apart and reused. World building, movies, and gaming. At USC in particular, we have a very strong cinema school. The cinema school really does appreciate our graduates because of the way that world building, narrative flow, the idea of making images that are experiential, that people can really relate to. We do that all the time. It's not something that they try to teach it as a special concentration, whereas everything that we do is about that. So our graduates and our current students are very well respected by the cinema school. And then, of course, related design, graphics, industrial design, interior design, each of those. And the last slide is really another option that with a 4-year degree, you're a perfect candidate if you are interested in getting a master's degree. The thing about a master's degree is that it's unlike an undergraduate education. And master's programs are super specific. So you can decide which school to go to that is going to address your particular interest. When you have a 4-year, especially this degree, you would have been introduced to many different aspects of architectural design, from the product level to the facade level, from an assembly which may be relatively simple to go together to the very advanced. That's why it's an ideal program if you are at all interested in that, but it's certainly not a requirement. And that's something that I think the 4-year BSA+IT students should really take into account, because you'll be introduced to so many different aspects and processes and business models that you could go on to an MArch program that specializes in housing or in material sciences or in experiential design that uses things which have all been recycled or reclaimed, that it doesn't have to be brand new material. And to that end, you can take some elective courses while you're here that help you explore those options. So you could get a visualization, you can get an MArch degree that has a specialty in visualizations, which means you're 100% into imagery, both virtual and, sort of at the high end of the technological, to the much more relatable idea of narrative storytelling and what kind of images goes into that. So when you're thinking about this degree, yes, the idea of employment is the most tricky one, because it is, in a way, you are valuable because you don't do one thing. You're valuable because you've been taught how to critically think about design, how to solve problems which are design oriented, how to work with others, so that you're not really just the architect that comes into the room, but you're this designer who has an architectural background, product background, a business building background, a research background. So it is a very well-rounded approach to our profession, and one that does not end with licensure. If anything, it would be a next step to that if you're interested, or you could bypass that in favor of a graduate degree that may offer you that option. So that's a run through of material that you probably have studied already quite a lot. And I think now, if there's something that was too confusing because of the way that the presentation wasn't showing up, sorry about that. this is the time to ask me, and I will definitely try to answer it. If I can't answer it, Elizabeth can answer it. Or as I said, you can always think about it. Yes, you can go away saying, okay, I've seen all that. But within the next few days, you might think of a question, and you should certainly, instead of wondering about it, just send it to us and we will do our best to get it answered as quickly as we can. So that's my part. Elizabeth, do you have any questions? Are there any questions in the chat?
I don't see any questions in the chat, but students, if you do have any questions, you can feel free to type them in the chat, or if you want to unmute your microphone and directly ask your question, you can do that as well. Lee, can you unshare your screen so I can see if any students have raised
Yeah.
their hand? All right. So are there any questions? I don't see any.
Okay, so if you don't have questions now, again, um, go ahead and, I know you all have gone through the application process. That's fantastic. You've all been admitted. That's even more fantastic. Congratulations. We had quite a number of, we doubled the number of applicants this year from last year with the same number of people who were admitted. So that's a significant accomplishment on your part. And questions might come to you after this. So, Doris and I, Doris is the director, I'm the associate director. We try to be as accessible as possible, and we'd rather not have any student wondering what they may do after graduation. We'd really just like to go through the options again with you.
Well, there is one question now. And
Okay.
so it says, I saw that USC allows students to earn credits towards a master's degree during undergrad. Is that a possibility with this major and the MARC?
It is with certain electives added, you can certainly get advanced placement in an architecture program, depending upon which one it is, where on the globe it is, what the school's priorities are. Um, there are different levels that you can enter a graduate degree, and again, it's specific to the school. But so yes, with the elective, what happens is the school that you're applying to will consider that you've already taken that at USC and will accept that within there, if it's close enough to be in line with a course that they require their MARC students to take, they can substitute that for something else. Now, similar to our program is that there is a certain number of degree requirements units that are required. You may be able to shorten that, or they might say you get credit for those that you've already taken. Here are some other options that will satisfy the minimum number of courses or units required.
All right, there's another question. Is it easy to get into the required courses? Also, since there are 12 of us in the major, would we all be in the same classes together?
Okay. Well, if it's a required course, yes, you will get into it. That is not a problem, and our class size is small because of the way the program is designed for maximum attention. Yes, similar to our 5-year degree, what you will do is you will move through the program as a cohort. Now, in this coming year, in the first year, we have decided it would be super advantageous for our incoming BSA+IT students to be mixed into with the 5-year degree so that you can develop friendships, relationships. As you move up through our degree, you will be with those 12 that came in with you in the first year mixed up with the 5-year, the second, third, and fourth year, you will be moving through the curriculum as a cohort. So it definitely is a group of people that you will learn to work with a lot and develop lifelong connections to.
Another question. So after graduating from the 4-year BSAIT program, if I decide that I want to get an architecture license, how many more years do I have to study?
Okay, that would mean a graduate degree, and that depends on which graduate degree you select. It's probably at least two, which would be a master's degree um, with advanced standing. So a typical four-year degree student is generally considered a 4+3, which means a four-year allied or related is the terminology most often used. A four-year related degree, and then you apply and you'll be entering into a three-year first professional degree is what it's called. And again, advanced standing is totally tied to the school or program you may be applying to. It's generally 2 years to get a master's degree after your four-year degree.
Okay. Is there an option for study abroad as with the 5-year program, but specific to BSAIT?
Um, Not directly. What we do have is we do have these externships, which are offered around the same time as the study abroad. And that means that you will spend a year off campus, which is meant to be you getting professional experience in an architecture firm, in a design firm, in a material sciences firm, or practice is probably a better word than firm. And so that takes you off campus and gives you the external experience that our global studies students would have as they travel the world looking at different buildings in different cultures. You will be hopefully looking at different contexts in which products were invented and manufactured, and how that would influence what your last year in our program as you would enter your thesis or capstone year. That's the difference.
The next question I see is this year's BSAIT class size also around 12?
Yes, we are limited to, we have 12 is our target number. And so each of these, and it's going to grow hopefully as the years go by. Um, we're pretty strong in our projections of growing each year by another 12. So perhaps by next fall, we will admit 24 students depending upon the need. But so far, like I said, we had double the number of applicants, and uh, the university has capped us still at 12. So um, it won't ever be as large. It'll take a very long, I shouldn't say ever. It would take a really long time for the BSAIT to achieve, say, the numbers of our BARC, which is, 70 freshmen admitted or 75. Um, so we anticipate growth, but it won't be at that scale.
All right, those were all the questions that I see in the chat. Students, were there any other questions? I don't see any hands raised. If not, I will type in our email in the chat. Um, if you have any questions that you can think of today, you're more than welcome to ask us later on. And then I will also put your email in the chat.
Okay. I also think as you're making your decision is keep in mind that you will be at USC. And there are a lot of things that go along with that, but we have, all of you are super accomplished academically. You'll be entering a university where everybody is accomplished academically, which is fantastic, which means you will be interacting with students at the highest level. And we have several of our schools are at the very top of their field. So we have one of the strongest cinema schools, one of the strongest business schools. You can take classes in the law school, and um, other related fields. So we don't want our students to feel that, once they're in architecture, that's what they're only going to do. We want you to participate in the community of the university at large. And we have a very well-known networking system in terms of once a Trojan, always a Trojan. But it's actually much more than a cliche. There are a lot of uh, alums who are basically within this realm, whether they got a design degree or not. They are leaders of this idea of anything related to building. So that should be also considered.
All right, I see another question. So, do we have advisors in the program right away as freshmen? Yes, students do have academic advisors. We have two advisors, and so if you decide to enroll into our program and begin your undergraduate studies in this fall, students will be able to meet with their advisors, and that's when they will register for classes and go over their course plan so they know what they will be taking when the fall semester starts.
Can I also say something about that?
Yes.
Is I think that it would be really good also to consider that the study of architecture is not like many other majors in a university setting, because in a way, your academic advisors are going to help you navigate certainly registration and the curriculum and other issues that come up with questions you might have. But it's also really important that you consider that since our classes are so small, that your faculty are de facto advisors. And so it's not that you can't um, speak to them about issues which are not necessarily on the core syllabi. I have students in my office all the time, or students that I've had at 1 year level that have now advanced through, and they regularly come to me and ask me questions about courses or something that came up in addition to their talk with their academic advisors. So because of our major, it's like every faculty member you have, depending upon your interaction level that you choose, is a mentor. And in this case, it is, an advisor. So that's the benefit of having being here at this school with so many creative minds that is built in. So it's not that is what you will make of it, and you will develop relationships with faculty that um, are very much an effort to advise you how you move through the curriculum and subsequently through your career.
All right, so I think that was the last question there's another one. Is it popular among BSAIT students to minor in something? If so, what are they? Are there ones that you see are good complements to this major?
Well, we just had our
Yes.
first incoming class, so we don't, that's kind of hard to answer because we haven't had
Hmm.
students have to declare that yet.
Hmm.
But just as our B.Arch students, our 5 year students, we have minors in cinema, we have minors in real estate, we have minors in business development. Um, so, there are a lot of different minors that are possibilities. We have minors in themed entertainment in the cinema school. We have minors in game development in the cinema school. Um, you probably don't know that yet until you're here and within the program and have maybe taken a couple of electives somewhere, but absolutely it is a possibility. It's one that you should actually consider.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. So USC does have I want to say a little over 160 minor options for students to choose from here. And because our 4 year degree program is new, I will say that for our 5 year, 20 to 30% of our students are pursuing minors across the campus. The ones that Lee has mentioned are just some of the minors that are students here. So it is possible for students to minor. Those that have an interest in minoring, they would work with their academic advisors, so making sure they fulfill both their major and their minor requirements. Minors can be anywhere between maybe 8 to 10 extra classes, which can total out to be 20 to 30 additional units on top of the 128 units total that the 4 year students complete. So are there any other questions? We still have a little bit of time, but I don't see any hands raised. No, going once, going twice.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you do think of something, just let us know because it's like I said, we would really rather try to answer your question specifically rather than have you wondering about it and not necessarily knowing the information.
Yeah, and then we want to really thank you for taking the time to join us this afternoon to learn about this major that you have been admitted into. And just to follow up with Lisa, congratulations on being admitted into this program. We look forward to seeing you in the fall if you choose to come here at USC. You're more than welcome to email us. I place both of our emails in the chat for you to be able to email us if any questions come to mind you can think of today, and that you can ask us later on. We will send a copy of this session to you as you also begin thinking about your decisions, because we know that is the biggest decision you will make ever. So if there aren't any other questions, again, thank you so much, everyone. Congratulations and fight on.